Alrighty, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, the handsome, the one and only Micaiah Young, and I probably shouldn't have started it like that. It just kind of popped out,
I
but
think that's the only way to start this out.
that's the only way to start. You're right. You're right. I got to be confident in who God made me to be. You
That's
know,
right.
um, but I am accompanied by one of my close friends, Devon Corey, and man, I've been so excited about this podcast because I feel like we talk like every week, and I just always enjoy our conversations talking about life, ministry, marriage, just everything in general. But how's everything been going for you, man? I know you've had a lot of things going on in your life lately. So tell us how everything's been going, and kind of give us a little bit of background of everything that you kind of, because I know you run a couple businesses, all those kind of things. Give us kind of a background of what you do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I'm Devon Corey, and I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. Well, I work in Raleigh, but I live just outside of Raleigh in a town called Wake Forest, North Carolina. And I've been in the North Carolina area my whole life. One of the few who's not a transplant around here, and so grew up
Yeah.
here, went to school up in the mountains, and then ended up back in this area again. And work-wise, I'm an advancement director and an alumni engagement director for a school called North Raleigh Christian Academy in Raleigh. It's one of the larger Christian schools in North Carolina, and I'm incredibly blessed to be here. I'm actually an alumni of the school, so I graduated in 2010 from here, and now I get to work with the alumni. So it's kind of a full circle moment. But even more full circle than that is my father works here, which is awesome because I get to work alongside my dad every single day. And also, I have two kids that are here as well. I have a second grader and a kindergartner that's here, and so it's pretty cool to be able to bring my
Yeah.
kids to work with me every day and have them and know what they're being taught. I love the education here. I love being able to. We'll probably talk more about this, but this whole thing has been kind of an interesting journey over the last couple years because I just felt like I was being pulled to go into ministry, and I didn't really know in what capacity and how I was going to end up here. But here I am, in a position that honestly, before I came here, didn't even exist at the school, and so it's kind of cool. I get to work in fundraising, I get to work in donor relations, and then
Hmm.
I work in a lot of different areas of with a lot of our parents as well as a lot of our teachers and our staff. And so I'm incredibly blessed with what I get to do here. Outside of that, I am married, been married for almost 11 years now,
Yeah.
to my amazing wife, Bethany. And
So,
so and we have four girls. So we have four kids. Gosh, I don't even know how old, almost an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 6-month-old. Uh, and
yeah.
it's nuts. So it is pure chaos at our house at all times, and I don't think we would have it any other way. My wife and I also we run a performing arts company, so a nonprofit Christian dance studio as well as a voice company and a theater company as well, all kind of wrapped into one in the Wake Forest area. And then we own an e-commerce business, which is kind of attached to a mentorship program, actually, where you and I met, God, 5 years ago.
Right.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a long explanation, but that's a little of the
Yeah.
background, kind of where we're coming from.
So have you always been I feel like I've talked to you or asked this before, but have you always been more extroverted like with, because it seems like everything in your life is relationships. Like obviously, I mean, kind of weird if you don't talk to your family. But you talk to your family. I mean, you talk to people all day with, administration stuff and with the e-commerce and with the performing arts studio, things like that. Like, have you always been extroverted, or is it kind of something you kind of worked into? Like, I just need to do this, so you do it for your job and stuff like that.
I've always been this way. Um, maybe annoyingly so, to many
Yeah.
people, but yeah, I really have. I've always enjoyed. I think for a long time it was much of I just enjoyed the spotlight and I wanted to be the center of attention. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love that. That's where I shine.
That's
Uh,
that's
but
the whole reason you're on here today is because I
exactly,
wanted to
yeah.
do this for
I was
you.
like, count me
Yeah.
in. I honestly, I invited myself on here. It wasn't even,
I don't even know how you showed up. I just saw you and we just started a conversation. So
so yeah, I love that. Being in front. I'm one of the rare few, honestly, when people talk about like what's your greatest fear. Like public speaking is not on that list for me. Count
yeah,
me in. You want somebody to speak in front of everybody. You want somebody to host or MC an event. Like count me in.
yeah,
I love that. I can't promise it'll be good, but I'm gonna have a good time.
yeah.
I got enough dad jokes and everything else like that these days that I can run for a little while.
I love that. Do you have a joke right offhand that you would just say to
Yeah.
somebody?
Oh,
Okay, good.
absolutely. I have 1,000 of them.
All right, break one
My
out. Break
my
one out.
favorite dad joke is probably, what did one nut say to the other nut? "I'm a cashew." That
Oh
just
gosh.
yeah, horrible.
Your dad ready. So I was going to I was that was a test like to see like, okay, is he dad proof material? And
Yeah,
you
yeah.
are. You
You ever heard of Murphy's Law? You know, like, if something
yeah.
can go bad, it will go bad kinda thing?
Yeah.
You ever heard of Cole's Law? It's just thinly sliced cabbage.
I was about to say, I'm like, when you bring up food, I know what you're talking about. When you bring up food, the moment you said coleslaw, I knew what it was about. I so this is not a dad joke, but someone said this yesterday. It was kind of like trying to see if you can make people laugh.
Yeah.
And he said, "Did you hear that Sylvester Stallone was on his third marriage?" And they're like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah. His first one was Rocky, and I guess his second one was Rocky too." And it just caught me off guard. And I've been wanting to tell somebody that for so long. I was going to tell my pastor, but he was in counseling, helping people, and I'm just joking about stuff. But so now I get to say it here on the
I
podcast for
love it.
everybody.
That's so great.
Um, but we came on here to talk about habits, and so it's to me it's such an important thing. And I know me and you have read, obviously there's plenty of biblical principles with habits, but we have read, the book Atomic Habits, which has a lot of valuable, I mean, it's a really popular book that's been very helpful as well. um so I know me and you talked about when it comes to developing habits, first off you need to figure out like who you desire to be, what you want your life to become, and this is the end result that I want. Now I was talking to James here earlier, who will remain anonymous. um and he was talking about how sometimes your desires, you talk about, okay, who do you desire to be, what is the end result, and sometimes your priorities, your desires come from experiences that you have and things that's happened in your life to kind of put that desire. But I think the desire should be to be a good dad. The desire should be to be like Christ, all these different things. So I think it starts off with having the right desire, figuring out what you want, and then
Mhm.
kind of developing habits to line up with that. Would you say that's a good assessment of like kind of what's in the book as well?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Um,
Okay.
and I feel like if you're not taking what you're learning there, I mean, heck, when you talk about um, topics like becoming 1% better every day, and
Oh
creating
yeah.
systems in your life, or even when you talk about forming good habits is a great thing to talk about, but breaking the bad habits is kind of usually the first thing you have to come to. But even
Yeah.
coming to that,
That's
every
a good
one of
point.
those mirrors the relationship that we have with God. And
Mhm.
that's what I love about it is anytime you're going to create a habit or you're going to do anything that's there, you can line that up with your relationship with God as well. Um,
That's a good point.
because heck, there's habits that you can create that allow you to become closer to Him, or
Mm.
to if you want to be able to learn things like I really want to get into a habit of like what does it mean to like pray without ceasing, and that kind of stuff. And it's like, hey, let's
Yeah.
dive into the word and figure out what that means. But then let's also practice that on a day-to-day basis and like
Yeah.
what systems do you put in place to be able to do that. So I think when you talk about doing that, it's funny how God works sometimes.
Yeah.
It's James Clear, as far as I know, is not a believer. But writing a book like Atomic Habits, it lines up so well with the Christian life
Yeah.
and being able to lead it from that standpoint because of habits. I mean, God created us to be able to have those habits and things in our life anyway. We might as well create them, alongside Him in those in our
Right.
relationships and finances and whatever else that might come.
100%. So so I guess it starts off with, what we were just talking about with, okay, you got to figure out who you want to be, but it's not just enough to want something because I mean, you ask people all around the world, do you want to be financially well off? I think somebody dumb would probably say, no, I would love to be a broke homeless person who has nothing. I think like if you were to ask someone, do you want to have a good family life? Do you want to have like obviously I would think that people would say, yes, I would love to have that. The
Yeah.
desire is not lacking. The desire is not lacking at all. It's the habits that are lacking. It's the
Yes.
because even the Bible says that the desire of the slothful kills him, or something like it goes something like that. But I mean, we sit around all day saying this is what I want, and I'm sure you hear that in business, you hear that in ministry, you hear that in all sorts of life. Is like this is what I want, and then you look at their life, and it is nowhere near where they said they want to be.
Yeah.
I don't know if you see that often with everything that you got going on.
Uh, I'm, I told you, I told you when we first started planning this. I feel like you just led me into this too. Thanks a lot for that. But I, I told you when we first started talking about that talking about habits on a podcast with you makes me feel like the biggest imposter in the world, because there are certain habits that I have in my life that I would consider bad habits. You
Yeah.
can see me. I am not the most trim fellow in the entire world. I'm incredibly attractive. I'm blessed by God. But however, you know, I'm not the most trim fellow in the world. So there are some bad habits that like I still would like to kick. Um, but there's also habits that we formed that, I think when you look at that, yeah, everybody wants to go this direction, but
Yeah.
that doesn't always mean it. Deciding that you want to do something um, is just kind of the first step.
Yeah.
Making the decision to actually do it and and applying it, having application to it is a very different step, and that's the hard one. Um,
Right.
it starts with the decision, but making an application and actually doing the first step, taking action on that's where most people struggle, and that's honestly where most people
Yeah.
stop. Think about, heck, it's February now. By
Yeah.
this point, the majority, 95% of people, um, nobody's carrying on with their New Year's resolutions. Everybody sets
Yeah.
goals and create these new habits, and you just think that because January or December 31st is on a Tuesday and January 1st is on a Wednesday, that this Tuesday to Wednesday is going to be totally different than last Tuesday to Wednesday. Well, if you don't create new
Right.
habits and you don't break the old habits and you don't create systems in your life to be able to do that, if nothing changes, nothing changes. You and I,
Yeah.
part of the mentorship program and things like that we were a part, we've been a part of for a long time. Um, the accountability that we have, we've heard that forever. If nothing changes, nothing changes.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and so, yeah, I think that's one of those where it's like, I kind of feel like an imposter when you talk about habits, but at the same time, I don't think anybody has every habit they want to completely figured out. They've got some kind of,
Yeah.
whether it's a vice or whether it's something else in their life where it's like, man, that's really just that one's getting me. That one's kicking
Yeah.
my butt.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely agree. Everybody
Yeah.
everybody wants to be better, but
Yeah.
what does it take to kind of go from I want it to now I have it?
Right. Well, what's some advice you would have for that then about placing systems in your life? Because I'm sure we have listeners here that there might be a dad listening that says, I want to be a better father. There's might
Yeah.
be somebody in business. I want to be better and find more financially off. I mean, there's different areas and all different, like, how do you place those systems? Because I know creating a game plan is so important. I can't remember exactly what the study was, but they were talking to three groups of people. And one group of people, they said, hey, you should just exercise more. Like, that's literally all they said. And then I think they told the second group, you should just exercise this week. And then the third group, they said, okay, I want you to exercise, but I also want you to write out a game plan for how to, like, when you're going to exercise, how you're going to do it, all those kind of things. And if
Yeah.
I remember right, like the two groups only did like 30% of them actually exercise, but like the third group was like 70%. So
Mhm.
like when you have a written out plan or a system for how I'm going to accomplish it, then you actually accomplish it. So as people are listening on here today, I want to be a better mother. I want to be a better businessman. I want to be a better whatever. As you're saying that, have you actually written out a system and saying, how am I going to accomplish this, and laid out a game plan? So what's your advice to those people who said, this is what my desire is, but how to lay out a system or have the right mindset, I guess, to go into that? What's your thoughts on that?
I think you have to, if you're setting those goals and you want to be able to create a system in your life, there's certain things that you have to be able to do. You have to change behaviors to be able to do that. But also, if you're setting those goals, before you set those habits, you have to know what you're trying to accomplish. I think
Yeah.
that's important in anything, whether
Yeah.
that's business, whether that's as a parent, whether that's as a spouse,
Yeah.
um, even at your your day to day job. When you really look at it, if I want to set those goals, they have to be specific. Because if I
Yeah.
just walk in every single morning and I go, well, my goal this year is to get healthier. That's great, but, like, that means nothing, because
Yeah.
what that means to me and what that means to you and what that means to invisible James over there, like, that all of that together, like, it's gonna mean 3 different things to 3 different people. And
Yeah.
so, I think when you really start, then you start to break it down and go, "Okay, what does healthier mean?" Does that mean you
Yeah.
wanna eat better, or does that mean you wanna exercise more? Oh, it's a combination of the 2. Okay, perfect. Well, let's
Yeah.
start to break that down a little bit more. What does that look like on, maybe we set weekly goals.
Yeah.
What's the ultimate goal? You and I talked about this recently. Like, what's the end goal? What was it that I wrote down at one point as I was kind of doing some study for this? Your long-term goals are going to require those short-term habits.
Mm.
And so if you want to be able to reach something long term, well, set that goal. Hey,
Yeah.
December 31st of 2025, this is what I want my life to look like. Well,
Mm.
perfect. Well, it's February of 2025. So,
Yeah.
from March on, we have 10 months, 10 full months from March 1st until the end of December. Well, that's
Yeah.
great. So take that goal and let's separate it into 10 equal parts. And then each one of those equal parts is what you have to accomplish in a month. And then let's
Yeah.
separate that down into 4 weeks on average. And
Mm.
then now you know what you have to do each week. And then let's separate that down into, maybe you don't do it every day of the week. Maybe you just go, I want to separate that into 5 individual pieces. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's what you do every 5 days out of the week.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think when you break it down that way, you go, okay, this is where I want to be at the end of the year. Okay, well, that means that if I want to get there, then bop, 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 bop. Okay, this is
Yeah.
what I do every single day. And
Mm.
you know, James Clear in Atomic Habits, he talks about becoming 1% better every single day. And
Yeah.
that means you're 3 times the person, you're 3.5 times better by the end of the year. And
Yeah.
I love that because it's incremental. But
Yeah.
problem with incremental is it's not noticeable. And so many
Mm.
people are results driven. You know,
Mm.
you step on that scale, you wake up in the morning and you go step on the scale in your bathroom, and you know, and you're like, well, I'm not 5 pounds down from yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, well, I should probably just quit. At the end of the week,
Yeah.
it's I'm only 2 pounds down. Like, how long is this gonna take? Then you start doing math, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, no, this is gonna take forever." And I felt
Yeah.
like that was the hardest thing I've ever had to do this past week, and so it's just like,
Yeah.
but, I heard somebody explain, and if I'm talking too long, stop me, but
No,
I heard somebody explain to
go
me
as
once
long as you want, bro.
if when as you're establishing habits and you're looking at things, find the results you want and then forget about it. We have a mutual friend, Steven, who has talked a lot about that too. Like, hey, find the
Yeah.
result and then take that result. Forget about the results. Just go with the habits. If I have this goal at the end of the year 2025, this is the goal I want. Well, when you have those daily habits, forget about the result that you wanted at the end. Focus on that daily habit. If I
Yeah.
did that daily habit that day, you won that day. Forget about the
Mm.
result. Don't weigh yourself,
Yeah.
anything else. I'm not saying, but you can,
Yeah.
but that shouldn't drive the motivation for every single day. So,
Mm.
James, there's actually 2 books. So, Atomic Habits actually comes from a study that came way before it from a book called Tiny Habits by
Mm.
BJ Fogg. And a lot of those same principles kind of came from this study from BJ Fogg that led into what became Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that, when you really look at it as a whole, it kind of breaks down into the what's known, what does he call it? The 4 laws of behavior change, and that seems too fancy to me. It's just essentially it just breaks down to like, if you want to create a new habit in your life, make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying.
Mm.
And that allows you it kind of to break it down a little bit more. So when you talk about those long-term goals, and
Yeah.
then kind of back it up, like when we do that, we're talking about like being in business or as a father or whatever else it might be.
Yeah.
Um, if I want to look better, and I want to be able to play with my kids better, or
Yeah.
maybe I just want to. Hey, maybe I'm not going to start with like, hey, I'm gonna start intermittent fasting today. I'm only going to eat for 22 and a half minutes every single day, and then whatever. I can't. My life doesn't work like that. I don't even know when I'm going to have that 22 and a half minutes. To be completely honest,
Yeah.
like I don't know if I'm going to in a day.
Yeah.
Um, but maybe I just want to start with like, maybe I just want to drink more water. Maybe I wanna like, "Hey, I'm gonna after I drink that first cup of coffee or whatever else it is, I'm not gonna cut out all the habits I have. I'm just gonna say,
Yeah.
maybe I just wanna drink more water." Well, the easiest way to do that is buy a water bottle and keep it full on your desk.
Yeah.
Maybe I fill up that water bottle before I leave the office every day, and then when I come in the next morning, well, I did the habit for that day the night before.
Yeah.
I filled up the water
Mm.
bottle. Literally, the only
Yeah.
thing keeping me from drinking is tipping the water bottle up and drinking it. So
Yeah.
it's like when you create that when you make something obvious, which is the first
Yeah.
thing, it's there. It's on my desk. It's obvious. It's as
Right.
obvious as it could be.
I like
Design
that.
your environment to support that success.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and then, make it attractive. Um, associate positive emotions, with your habit or whatever else it might be.
Right.
And, maybe first thing in the morning, I've got a really good podcast or devotion or something I really like.
Yeah.
When I first sit down at my desk, I hit play. I load that up on my laptop the day before and I hit play on that podcast. And while I'm
Yeah.
listening to that devotion or podcast or whatever else it is, boom, I'm listening to that Victory Vision podcast in the morning and I'm drinking my water bottle.
Yeah.
And that makes it attractive because now I'm doing something while I'm, creating that habit that might be there.
Yeah.
And then you want to make it easy. Making it easy is making something convenient and frictionless. Um, and sometimes it's just, what? I'm just going to drink one. I'm going to drink one water bottle in that day. I
Yeah.
might not even remember to fill it up. I might, whatever, but I'm just going to make sure I
Yeah.
drink. I'm not going to be like, I'm going to drink 8 of these every single day. I'm going to bring my gallon of water with me. I was driving today and I looked behind me and the person driving behind me in the car literally had a gallon of water and they were just like chugging it. And I was like, who are you trying to be? Like, what is happening right now? Like, how bad is that person going to have to pee before they even get where they're going?
It's a lot of yeah. These
That
things,
is
these
going
thoughts are important.
to gas station stop very soon. Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, make it easy. And then the last one is like make it satisfying. So, you reinforce yourself with some of those rewards that might be there. Um, I don't have an
Mm.
example for this when it comes to water. I was trying to think of one. I have a really good one when it comes to like finances. Like if you want to have it be satisfying, if you're saving money, save your money in a glass jar. Make it satisfying because then every time you
Yeah.
save money, it starts to stack up and you see
Yeah.
that like, oh, it's satisfying for me to do this habit. Or
Yeah.
for me, I'm a money guy. Um, so like I really like when I'm saving money, I put it
Yeah.
in the jar and every time I put money in there, I like count it. I'm like, oh,
Yeah. Get
more than it was
excited.
last time, obviously, because you put more in there.
Yeah.
Unless you're my kids will steal it out of there. Um, we're teaching them about like money habits and like, hey, you tithe this and you do that and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Um, and so they can earn money for doing like they earn commission for doing some of their habits every single week. It's a Dave Ramsey thing, and
Yeah.
so we pay commission to our kids, and they're obsessed with it. They love it. They still don't
That's
know that
awesome.
money is like how the world goes around kind of thing. They just
Yeah.
they're just like, oh, coins. I want all the coins. Uh,
Yeah.
and so we put coins in like a savings jar, and my kids are like, oh, those are my coins now. Um, so now it's just like, do we teach them about the importance of money or like how not to steal? It's just like,
Mm.
it's just like that's a lesson for another day. Um,
Yeah.
parenting as a whole. So anyway, that was apparently you just let me talk that whole time. That was everything. That was everything I had.
All
Um,
right. Well, we're done. It's just in the podcast. Just like,
everything
no,
I know about habits.
do what? You said bad habits.
No, that's just everything I know about habits. Yeah, my bad habit is I talk too much. Um, but
Well, that's okay. I still love you. No, I thought that was perfect. I really genuinely enjoyed that. And I think our listeners did too. And something that I have, so we all have different goals and desires. I have probably different goals than a lot of people do. And there might be some commonalities between us. Financially, obviously, I want to do better. I want to save. I love seeing just go up. Like, even if it's like I'm putting $20 over here or I'm doing 50 or whatever, that's just such a cool feeling. But like with one of the spiritual things, I know recently we've had preachers come in and says, hey, like, how do you do with devotions with your family? I'm like, I don't really do that. In my brain, I was thinking that, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start off small. Like there's a 365-day devotional. So just one devotion every day for 365. And I put it in my wife's office because she works from home. And so every morning I walk back there to bring the dog, and the book's just laying right there.
yeah,
So I literally sit down, I read a devotion while she's getting her stuff up and ready. And then we prayed this morning. And so that's like our daily habit every day. We walk back there, she's getting her stuff ready. I sit on the bed where the book is, I read it, and we pray. And that may not be like a let's go through a whole book of the Bible or let's do this whole Bible study. And but that's putting something, a spiritual thing, into our life to start our day and praying and saying, God, would you be a part of what we're doing today? And so even as small as that literally takes less than 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
But to me, that's a fantastic habit to put in place, even if it may not be a 45-minute Bible study. It's just putting something spiritual and having that good habit. And I'm making it easy. And after you get done praying, you always feel better. I don't know about you, but like I always feel better after praying. So to me, that's satisfying. And it's convenient because I'm already walking back there. So now it's an easy habit that we do every single morning. So I love what you said with that as far as making that happen. But I mean, so I think another thing, and you can kind of add in with this a little bit, and I'm not going to keep you much longer, but like, so seeing the person you want to be, that desiring that person, setting up the habits to be in place, being disciplined with those, because I have heard that I can't remember who said it, but it was somebody really successful. They said they did a study of people, and they said the most successful people that they found that they thrived in the mundane. So it's, every single day habits. You're not always going to feel like doing those things consistently. Like you're not going to feel like going to the gym every day. You're not going to feel like reading your Bible every day. You're not going to feel like all these different things. But if you thrive in the mundane, you're going to see results. Like if you can live in the mundane, like you said, forget about the result, just doing what's right. Even God says that. He never says get this result. He says do what's right. Just
Yeah.
do my commandments. Fear me. So if you get used to doing what's right and focusing on that and thriving in that, then the amazing results are going to come. But I know another part of that too is surrounding yourself with people to be accountable to. So how would you say that's impacted your life when it comes to habits? I know you have financial goals, you have all these goals, but how does that play? I know it's impacted both of us because we've kind of talked about it. But how has that impacted your life as far as being around people that you've been accountable to?
Oh gosh, man. Association and having accountability with somebody else is vital,
Yeah.
vital in every area of life, especially like the Christian walk. When you talk
Yeah.
about having that brotherhood, I mean, like you and I, we talk a lot, and it's not every
Yeah.
conversation. It's not like every conversation I'm like, "How can I pray for you now? How can I pray for
Yeah.
you now?" Like
Yeah.
we're just talking. Like we talk
Yeah.
about that new puppy you got. We talk about life. Hey, where are you
Yeah.
traveling now? Or like, hey, what are the financial goals and other things like that. I think accountability is the reason I'm at the gym that I'm at. I go to it's like a group fitness gym, like
Yeah.
like a burn boot camp or something. It's a different one, but um, I go to a gym, and the only reason why I go to that gym is because of the accountability. I have to literally sign up for a time to go. I go for it's a 45-minute workout, and when I go, I'm gonna be there with other people, and
Yeah.
that for me is locked in accountability.
Yeah.
So if for them, like those are my accountability partners when it comes to like my exercise, because
Yeah.
I've committed to going at a certain time when those people are going to be there and
Yeah.
committed to going for the whole time that's there. And honestly, that's what got me to the gym. When it was up to me and I had a Planet Fitness membership, I never
Yeah.
went.
Yeah.
I just, at the end of the year when I was doing my taxes and it said like, did you give to charity this year? And I was like, I donated every month to the gym. And I didn't do it. I never went. I just donated.
Yeah.
And for many years, I just gave my money away.
Well, I feel better about myself then because I also donate a lot too. I mean, not recently, but I have donated, and I know
Yeah,
there's other people right now who donate to the gym. So we're all
yes,
giving to charities. So
yes.
you're
So
inspiring people as you talk.
the
So
donation,
continue, sir.
we're really big on we're just donors. That's all we are.
Giving. We're
Yes,
givers, man.
we're just
Part of
giving.
us.
Um, and so that in itself, like I think that creates accountability. But when you talk about accountability with finances, now that accountability might be finances with that could just be accountability with your wife. For me,
Yeah.
like I'm married, and so that accountability could be. I know that my wife and I we chat. We have the same bank account, and so we can see
Mhm.
everything that happens in our bank account. At one point we eh, we would write down, and we have friends that like would write down every single thing that they bought, in a day.
Yeah.
And that just kind of kept them accountable to go like, hey, maybe I shouldn't swipe my card for this because I'm gonna have to write that down. And I don't really want to write that down. Not because
Yeah.
it's a bad thing, but just because like, well, am I spending money on a Snickers ice cream bar? There's something else
Yeah.
like I don't want to write that down. Um, and so that helps people to be accountable to each other, which is a
Yeah.
great thing. And, some people like to journal. That keeps you accountable to yourself.
Yeah.
And it allows
Yeah.
you to kinda go back and read like, "Hey, where was I at? Where was my mindset at?"
Yeah.
And that keeps you accountable to yourself. And then I think in the end, I'm really big on mentorship and coaching and
Yeah.
accountability and surrounding yourself with, um, I you know, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. He talks about association big time when he talks about, you know, y surround yourself, get yourself 5 people. Yeah, gosh, I am butchering this.
You're good, bro. You're good.
Scene. So, like, when you if you put yourself around in a financial term, if you put yourself
Yeah.
around 5 millionaires, then you'll end up being the 6th, because you're
Yeah.
associating with those people. Find people in life who are already at the point you wanna be at. I'm not saying all
Yeah.
the friends have to be well beyond your years or,
Yeah.
in different areas of it's good to be able to have people where you just, like, you have those accountability partners go like, "Hey, we're going through this together. Hey, we're
Yeah.
both in debt. Let's try
Yeah.
to get out of that." Or,
Yeah.
"Hey, we're both trying to put more money into our investments," or whatever
Yeah.
else it might be. I have 4 weddings to pay for, so, like, that's stressful. So I'm trying to, where I'm trauma bonding with, other girl dads when it's like, "Hey, we have a lot of money that's gonna be
Yeah.
poured out soon." And people keep reminding me of that, and I'm like, "Courthouse weddings are cheap."
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
so that probably should make it on the podcast, but, anyway, so at least, well, whatever. My girls don't know how to find this. So I in the long run, like, the more you surround yourself with people who are gonna align with what you're
Yeah.
now spiritually, financially,
Yeah.
professionally, personally, even
Yeah.
relationally, align
Yeah.
yourself with those people, and that's why I think, Micaiah, you and I get along so well, is because we have a lot of the same goals, um,
Yeah.
in our relationship with our wife, in, like, our
Yeah.
finances, and we have the same beliefs when it comes to, like, debt and other things like that. Um, we wanna surround ourselves and we wanna continually become better, and so
Yeah.
putting ourselves around each other, having that accountability is also pushing each other,
Yeah.
where you see those things and, like, you and I both have looked at each other and been like, "Hey, you could step it up in this area," or like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I believe in you here, like, you might not see it, but, like, I see this in you, let's live up
Yeah.
to that." Sometimes you
Yeah.
instill that potential in somebody else, and they go, "Oh, I hadn't considered that that was kind of like a step that I could go to," and so then you
Yeah.
kind of get to level up together.
Yeah.
So, I think accountability is huge, and who wants to go through life alone?
I
Um
agree.
I just don't want that. We've already said I'm a people person, like, I'm an extrovert, like, I don't wanna go
Yeah.
through life I don't wanna be alone ever. Um, so, it's just
Yeah.
like, eh, I wanna be around people, but at the same time, I wanna be around people who are gonna move me forward. I
Yeah.
hate being in those circles where you're surrounded by people where all they do is it's just complain, 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 or, "I
Yeah.
wish this was better, I wish this was." Well, freaking fix it. Um
Yeah.
like, let's
Yeah.
about face and let's fix it
Yeah.
because obviously, like, the complaints you have, like, okay, that's what we need to change.
Yeah.
How do we move forward? And that's where that accountability comes in, where you can look at somebody and go, "Hey, you complain a whole lot.
Yeah.
How about we start fixing those one at a time? Like, I'm
Yeah.
here for you. I wanna be your friend. Let's pray about it. Let's figure
Yeah.
out the course of action. Maybe let's get into church, and let's."
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that's a big thing as well, and probably our biggest association for us and the accountability that we have is our church family here,
Yeah.
and that's become huge for us to just be like, "Hey, I've got some stuff going on.
Yeah.
I just need" that association sometimes is just being like, "Can y'all just pray for wisdom?"
Yeah.
"Can y'all just pray that, you know, my stress levels come down so I can kind of just, like, think," or
Yeah.
whatever else it might be, so yeah, I think it's vital. As you get I can geek out about that kinda stuff. Accountability is huge
Yeah.
for me. I'm really big on that with my girls. Um, I am really big I always wanna make sure that, like, I'm a man of my word. I always wanna
Yeah.
make sure that I'm living up to, like, "Hey, I'm gonna accomplish this, like, let's do that." It
Yeah.
might take me longer than I say, but that's where
Yeah.
the accountability comes in. So, yeah, I don't even
Yeah.
know if
That
that
was
was what you were looking for. It's a lot, though.
no,
Sorry.
that's exactly what I was looking for. That was fantastic. Yeah, I thought of a couple things while you were talking. And one of those things, like our relationship, me and you don't every single day say, "Hey, you're keeping up with your goals, right?" Like, and you may have mentioned a little bit about this. Like, we're every single day, we're not like trying to provoke each other to do better and things in that way. Like, that's an aspect of it too. But literally, just being around each other has inspired me. Just talking every week, like on Marco Polo, stuff like that, because you talk about all the things you got going on. These are the things that I'm aiming for, and you just in your average conversation, you're just like, this is what we're accomplishing, this is what we're doing, and that inspires me. Just by me surrounding myself with you, discussing these things, says, man, oh yeah, I want to improve in that area, and it pushes me. So just making your decision that I'm going to be around, like, take myself away from the friends who are complaining and they're always talking about stuff that does not matter. And you're putting yourself around people that you want to be like. If someone's better than money, I mean, they talk about the proximity principle and all these type of things, putting yourself around people where you want to be. I mean, if you put yourself around them, you force yourself, say, I'm going to be around where I want to be. I mean, it's going to rub off on you, like you said, and you're going to start living better. And then there's also the other aspect of trying to provoke each other. Because I know in Hebrews 10, it says, what God considers being considerate of somebody is provoking them to love and good works. So by saying, hey, like putting yourself around people who provoke you, because the next verse says we're all going to stand before God one day. So
Yeah.
we're trying to provoke each other. Let's all do better. Let's all keep growing. Let's all keep going forward. So there's both aspects, surrounding yourself with people who are aiming and going somewhere, and that inspires you, but also the other aspect of let's keep encouraging each other to do right. Like,
Yeah.
hey, let's try to improve our marriages. Let's try to improve our friendships, our finances, our health, all these things. Let's try to be better. And like you said, 1% better every day. And that's all we can do is aim for, set a game plan in place, surround ourselves with people, just try to have the right habits, because I mean, those are going to show, the results are going to show at the end of the day. And we got to be consistent. We got to be consistent. I know my pastor was giving the illustration. He said that about the Chinese bamboo tree.
Mm.
And he said that you water it for 5 years, there is no growth at all. But in that fifth year, I think they said it grows 90 feet in a matter of 3 weeks or 5 weeks, all after that fifth year. So you're watering, you're doing what's right, but then out of nowhere, you see the result.
Yeah.
Or if you don't see it down here, you see it in heaven when God rewards you one day for all the hard work and all the right things that you did. So, all this has been, I've loved this conversation. Just I've been inspired just talking about it, and I'm sure our listeners have been as well. Is there any other thoughts that you have revolving this, either while I was talking that popped up, or just anything at all
I think the
revolving
last
around it?
thought is this. When you talk about watering a bamboo tree, that example, when you talk about that for 5 years, I think the only thing that really catches me on that, year one and year two sucks. Let's be honest, because it's all
Yeah,
habits and trying to form that and trying to create consistency and trying to be
yeah,
having that, being able to be persistent in all of that and carry on, go blah 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 blah.
yeah,
Year three, you lose hope. At some point, like you think
yeah,
about 5 years, like 5 years
yeah,
ago, back 2020. Um,
yeah,
that's a hard time to think about for a lot of people anyway. But when you
yeah,
look back at 2020, you're like, man, that was a long time ago. A lot of stuff has happened since then.
yeah,
And so for me, when I look at that, it's really easy to look at that and be like, the bamboo tree grows after 5 years. But year
yeah.
four, you're like, nope, it's not going to happen. I don't even think I'm
Right.
watering the right spot anymore. Like
What
you're
about
like,
yeah,
easily I'm way off base. Like there's no
yeah,
bamboo tree.
yeah,
There was never a bamboo tree. Um, and and so it's really easy to say that and be like, how inspiring, 5 years,
yeah,
and that's all it
exactly.
takes. But when you have people in your life, when you have this connection, like you and I, the amount we talk and what we talk about, and saying my goals. And the only reason why I say my goals is not to brag or anything else like that. I want to say things because I'm not talking about accomplishments yet. I'm
Yeah,
talking about, like, if I put it out there, I have to be accountable to that. You
yeah,
know, my big thing I keep saying to people this year, like I keep looking at Bethany and I'm like, listen, just wait, because in a couple months from now, like I'm gonna look like a statue of a Greek god. Um, and I keep saying that to people, and it's like I gotta live up to that, And so
yeah, yeah,
there's habits that have to go into place for that. But that 5 years before things start happening, before I look like
yeah,
Greek great god, um, and when all of that happened, it helps. You have to have people in your corner. You
yeah,
have to have people that come alongside you to be able to do that. That 5 years doesn't go faster, but
yeah,
your belief stays higher and you're
mhm,
willing to continue taking action when you're going through that with somebody else. or you
Yeah.
have somebody to be able to do that. And I think that is when you talk about habits and establishing in your lives and everything else that's there. If I want to get one thing across, it's being able to put yourself in a place where you make it easy to accomplish those things. And the easiest way
Mm.
to do that is find people who are in your corner that believe
Yeah.
what you believe, that want the
Mm.
same thing as you, who, you want to be around your family, and so a lot of that stuff is like, get somebody in your corner. And that's why I know that I can call you at any moment and be like, hey, I'm really struggling about this. And I have. I've been like, hey, I'm really struggling about this. Can you just pray for me? Like right now, all I just need is prayer. And
Yeah.
sometimes like that really helps. And sometimes you're like, dude, give me an idea. I'm lost as all get out because it is year 3 out of 5 years,
Yeah.
and this is never going to happen.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you just need that. And so that's the thing that hits me when you say that. It it's vital. Find the right
Yeah.
people. Get people in your corner. Find that tribe. You want to use a buzzword like find that
Yeah.
tribe, and get those people around you because that is so, so vital. And you get to grow together and you get to look back and go, look where we all were 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and now look at all of our bamboo trees, or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so anyway, I think that's what really hits me there. But this has been a huge pleasure. Thank you so much. This is a blessing for you to be invited on here and to be able to just have a conversation,
Yeah.
you dude. And so this is great. Thank you.
Yeah. Likewise, man. And I'll order you some like bamboo tree seeds, and then you could like question yourself about that.
We'll
But
water them together every day.
yeah, every day we'll take videos
I'm gonna make a big
for
X to be like, I know that it's
this
in the
is
right
where it's
spot.
at.
Yeah, like
Yeah. Yeah. That'd
I'm,
be awesome.
I'm throwing that out. Don't buy me that.
Yeah, me either. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for jumping on here with me, man, and thank you for all that's listening. Please share this with somebody. This is something that affects everybody. This is not one of those topics that it's like, oh, I don't know if people need good habits or yeah. No, this is a topic that affects everybody.
Yeah,
So please share this with somebody, and then leave a review. I know we've got over 100 episodes of the podcast now. It's like this is like our 115th, I think. So
God,
we have content going out, but to get it out there to more people, if you could leave a review on the podcast wherever you're listening to this, that would be awesome, or a comment, whatever.
yeah.
But thank you so much, Devon, and we'll look forward to jumping on here again next time with you all, guys. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks, man. See y'all.